right. Thank you, Simeon, and good morning to you all. So we'll be looking at the COMESA deployment, what we're about to deploy. So it's a cross-border payments platform. But before I deep dive into the presentation, suffice I should mention that we are working on this project with the COMESA Clearing House, and I would like to invite the Executive Secretary for COMESA Clearing House, Ms. Jedida Ndewele, to give some few remarks, and then we'll go into the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here today. I'm very grateful to Mojaloop for ensuring that, I stand here. We get to hear all these experiences that are being shared. We get to hear the insights from the panels that have come before us. And before I hand over back to my colleagues to talk about the initiative that COMESA is undertaking, I thought just to give you a little bit of context on why we are doing this. Now, COMESA stands for the Common Market for East and Southern Africa, and it is a regional economic community of 21 member states, all the way from Southern Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and going all the way to Northern Africa, Libya, Tunisia, Egypt. And even if the name still remains East and Southern Africa, what happens is that if a member state sees benefits in having its neighboring country join COMESA, they then recommend them to join by invitation. So that is why we have spread all the way to Northern Africa. And what is happening now is that the main objective of COMESA is to promote intra-regional trade for integration. And there are so many barriers to trade. And with this trade, as COMESA is trying to promote it, we have realized that we need to work on easing the movement of goods, the movement of services, the movement of people. And for all these things to move, there has to be payment. If you have to move goods, if you have to move a service, cross-border or persons, there has to be a payment. And how best do we ensure that these payments are efficient, these payments are inclusive, and these payments are affordable? And so in the recent past, in the few years past, we as COMESA have realized that there's a major constituent that we were not taking care of, and that is the MSME, and that population that is left out in the value chain of payments. And that is why we have now come up with the initiative that we will hear about shortly, which has been so tremendously supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, great support and partnership with the Mojaloop Foundation. And I'm happy to say that we have Infitex, who is our system implementer, and they will tell us more about this system. And I look forward to getting questions at the end and telling you more about what it is that we are doing, what it is that we are looking forward to doing, and what are the advantages. And as we said yesterday, what is the value proposition of what this system is going to bring about? So over to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Jedida. So, all right. So to continue the presentation, also just to echo on what Jedida had said, also just on the screen there, you can see, so these are the strategic partners, as Jedida has said. So we have the BMGF, we have got the technology partner Mojaloop, but also our implementation partners, Infitex, Iziane in Malawi, in Zambia, then Imosis in Malawi, as well as the COMESA Clearing House. So all I can say is thank you very much to our partners. I think we've been able to reach this far, but also we are able to see far because we are standing on the shoulders of the giants. So in terms of the deployment, these are some of the early adopters and contributors. So ideally, we have the early participants that we already onboarded, like companies listed, the banks, National Bank, TNM, FDH, UBA Bank, and others. But also, we do have the contributors in terms of the working groups that we have set up. So we have set up, at the moment, 3 working groups. We've got the legal and regulatory, as well as the technical and standards, but also the commercial. So ideally, the whole aim of having these working groups is to make sure that we define the business model. I think much has already been said to say, I think the technology part is easier, but also what matters most are these business aspects, the business model, the governance issues, and the like. So just a brief background for those of you probably who are hearing about the project for the first time. So ideally, the whole aim of doing this initiative was to promote intra-trade, as Jedida had mentioned, within the COMESA region. So today, if you look at intra-trade within the COMESA region, it's very low. We are talking of figures less than 20% within the COMESA region. And now, if you also drill down into the traders themselves, you find that most of them are micro, small, and medium enterprises who almost constitute probably 70 to 80% of the GDP. And they face quite a number of challenges, like, for instance, access to finance. If they go to a bank, maybe to get a loan, they'll be told that maybe, do you have a collateral, maybe in terms of a title deed? They say, no, we don't have. So this project is also trying to solve such challenges, so much so that they can even maybe, we see how best do they get digital collaterals and the others. But there are also other issues, like, for instance, access to market information. They can't access market information. So going forward, we want to integrate this payment platform with an e-commerce platform whereby our traders can access market information. They should be able to know maybe what type of products are being sold in Uganda, or even themselves, they can also put their products in the platform itself at an affordable price. But one key issue for discussion for today is the lack of supportive infrastructure. And this is where I'm going to double click. So ideally, when you look at our traders, there are so many challenges. Like, for instance, maybe the cost of transactions. To them, most of them is high. If they are maybe to buy some merchandise from another country, let's say Egypt, they find that, okay, maybe to pay for that product is very expensive. And this also brings me down to what Elizabeth was talking about on the level 1 principles, especially on the affordability. So some of the challenges that we're trying to look at, like, for instance, how do we make the services affordable so that they're accessible, but also even other issues, like, for instance, if maybe they're making the payments, these MSMEs have got minimal capital. They don't want to spend like a lot of money or just money staying idle. If they make a payment, clearance has to be done there and then. So we're also looking at issues like instant payments and the others. So ideally, by the end of the day, what we're looking at aspects like, for instance, how do we promote intertrade within the region? How do we make sure that we have got increased volumes of transactions within the region? How do we ensure that there's visibility of African products within the region? So ideally, those are some of the key outcomes that we're looking at. And going forward, in as far as the value proposition is concerned, so this slide is simply showing you the value proposition. So for the financial institutions, excuse me, let me just take the. Yeah, for the financial institutions, we are looking at aspects like, for instance, market penetration. That's some of the institutions, like, for instance, the financial institutions, they may be available maybe in jurisdictions. But by virtue of participating in this platform, you have access to various markets. And we're also looking at issues like to do with shared target market. That will also be part of the benefits for the financial institutions. And then there are also other issues like, for instance, expanding the cross-border currency offering. So they'll be able to do such at a very minimal cost. So the cost of doing business is going to be high. And if you look at the participants, the users themselves, who are the traders, and these are the customers for the DFIs, they're going also to enjoy quite a number of benefits. So, like, for instance, the use of local currency. So in the presentations that Warren is going to make, you'll notice that when it comes to payments across the borders, people will be paying using their local currency. So one can pay using maybe Kenya shilling, is paying someone maybe in Zambia, who is going to get using Zambia kwachas. The other aspect is about affordability. So this platform is going to be affordable. So they'll be able to access, they'll be able to use the platform easily. But we're also talking of other issues, like for instance, access to market, which I talked about. That's our later progress in as far as the project is concerned. So we're thinking of connecting the payments platform to the e-commerce platform. And then other issues include, like for instance, the value-added services. We also want to see how best can our traders be able to access market information. So in terms of the ecosystem itself, this is what we're trying to show at a bigger picture. So here we have the hub itself, and then people will be able to pay from one country, the source country, into another country using the national IPS. But also what is critical to note is that in as far as the payments are concerned, they're going to be done using central bank money, which is secured. And also the other important aspect to note is that we'll have the Forex being managed at the regional hub. And this will also sort of like create some sort of competition, which will also help in a way to bring down the costs so much so that by the end of the day, the users, the traders, will be able to trade at a very reasonable price. And the other thing that we must note also is about the benefit that this platform is going to offer. So you'll find that in the interest of coordination within the region, as COMESA, our aim is to also make sure that there's regional integration and all the corridors will be connected without any challenges. So in terms of what we've been doing to realize the platform, these are some of the things that we've been doing. So we have been talking to the stakeholders, we've been talking to the central banks, we've been talking to the DFSPs themselves, but by the end of the day, we are also looking at what we call in COMESA like the principal variable geometry. So we'll start also with those who start, but our target, immediate target is to start with 8 countries, and then we'll add 7 countries, and after that, we shall have all the 21 COMESA countries being connected. The other aspect is to do with the working groups. So we've established working groups, as I mentioned, and the whole aim of these working groups are there to refine the business model so that we've got something that will help us. We are also looking at another pillar, which is the scheme management, trying to put the platform in place and also even engaging other stakeholders. So in brief, in as far as our roadmap is concerned, this is our roadmap as of now. So we are at the build stage whereby we are looking at having 2 countries on board at least by end of the year. Our work has already progressed, and this is also what Karen will show. So Warren will show. So we have Zambia and Malawi. And then we are looking at having the platform being ready next year by Q1, whereby transaction now have to start. And also in the same half of next year, we are looking at having like 8 countries being part of the platform, the ones that we are targeting. And then we also have to integrate the FRMS in the same aspect. Then after that, we'll be adding the additional remaining countries, and then also even providing more use cases. So by 2026, our target is to make sure that at least all the 21 COMESA countries are connected. So basically, I think that's what I can start with. And at this point in time, I will invite Warren to demonstrate the work that has been done so far in as far as Forex, as well as scheme flows, but also the ISO 222. So over to you, Warren. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jonathan and Jadida, for that great introduction. So we're going to talk through some of the slightly less exciting but technical details. Now, for COMESA, as Dr. Jonathan just said, we had to actually invest a fair bit in enhancing Mojaloop. These were things that were on the roadmap that have been discussed in this forum over many years and have now had an opportunity to be realized to meet the needs of a cross-border regional system. So it's the team involved with COMESA and members of the community have all been contributing to this over a long time. Now we have a Mojaloop and the participation tools for Mojaloop that allow us to support cross-currency, so that FX flows in a way that provides liquidity cover, and the purchase of liquidity cover by either the payer or the payee DFSP. Currently, it's just payer, but the pattern is there. We have ISO 20022 for IPS. Now, the Mojaloop Foundation has invested a very long time together with Swift, who's in the room. You'll hear from them later today. You hear the work that Michael has been leading for the Mojaloop Foundation around actually coming up with a version of ISO, patterns of ISO, which include both messages and orchestration that support real-time payments. So that work has been a many-year effort, but it's realized here we have a version of Mojaloop that supports that. And I've left one out. Oh, most importantly, is for the regional element of this, is the inter-scheme, the ability to connect different payment networks together without losing any of the characteristics that we want from good real-time systems. We've spoken about L1P, we've spoken about what IIPS is. Those are characteristics that we want to make sure that we have copied over into this regional scenario. So we have all those components now in place. All of the stuff has happened in the open source as a collaborative effort. So we are going to invite you to join, have a look at those code bases and contributions that COMESA has made, but also to be able to join this program and be able to join and connect to our staging systems. Going to move on to So in getting ready for a system to go live, as you've just heard from Rwanda, it's not just about the functional features, it's also about all the operational enhancements that are needed to be put in place. It's very different to go from running software that works in the lab to running software that we're going to run regional payments on, software that we're going to run national payments on. So this has been a great opportunity, and as a team that has helped build out the skills and management elements of the platform. In fact, I think we heard from IPSL delegates yesterday on the stage how it was encouraging to see that the Mojaloop offering doesn't just have the core switching technology, but actually has those configuration management tools. These are the very important contributions to move to a enterprise grade operation. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask the team to play the first video that will give us a very quick and brief introduction over the what is called the control center now, which helps manage the deployments of the DRPP. I'm sure it will start in a moment. Possibly. I'm assuming the guys at the back are fixing things. Okay. All right. Okay. While we deal with that technical hitch. Okay, I'm going to go back to the slides then. Okay, thank you. I assume Brian and the team will be talking in the back there to figure out what's going on with those videos, because we have a few of them. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the actual environment that we have in place. You saw that second slide with all the logos. There's been a huge participation from the community, and that's been very encouraging. I think in all the conversations we've had, the discussion has been well received, but there are also challenges, and we've got to work through the processes appropriately. This is payments. This is regional payments. The reason we can be doing this is because a body like COMESA has access to the region and the decision makers in the region. And, Jadida representing CCHO is very important for that. And it's that community and ecosystem that's actually engaged with this, which will make it viable. At the moment, the DRPP demo is in a situation where it can present to the reps committee and actually say, this is the functionality, look, this is how it's going to be. So we're not having to make stuff up. It's actually real. They can touch and feel it. So we have a staging environment. COMESA, when it goes live, has been planned to go live in AWS, but actually the staging environment you're going to see the demos on today are ones that are running on-premise deployments of the Mojaloop platform. That's just because we have time to do the videos again on the AWS. We're going to have 2 emulated national schemes. Now, this concept of emulated national schemes, some of you may have heard it in other conversations, but this is a mechanism where we can help accelerate adoption. And we just, in this case, using Zambia and Malawi to demonstrate this. But the concept of emulated schemes is when we do not have the technology in place locally to do an IIPS compliant interaction, we can then bridge that gap in the interim. The technology that we'll show, as I said, is it will either be using open APIs or the staging environment, because until the actual DFSPs have a mandate and permission from the local regulators to enter the sandbox, they obviously can't do that. So the technology is in place to be able to show that. So in our scenario, we have Airtel Zambia, National Bank of Malawi are connected via their respective emulated schemes. And we have a Forex provider. A candidate is FDH, who will be acting as one of the first FXPs to join the platform. But going back to what Dr. Jonathan said earlier on, one of the key differentiators of the solution for DRPP is that the FXPs connect to the center, they connect to the regional hub, and then they get access to the entire network as their regulatory authorization allows them to proceed. And I have good news from the back. We have the video working. So I'm just going to go back to this slide for a moment and see if we can run video number 1. So this is going back and having a look at the management tools that are in place to operationally deploy and manage a production environment.
Also control access for the operation teams. Role-based access control in...
Sorry, can we go to the beginning?
Hi, my name is Oscar Kovar. I am Technical Operation Principal on Infitex. Control Center is found on a platform of choice independently of the landscape the adopter wishes to deploy. It orchestrates the solution lifecycle seamlessly, following GitOps best practices. Being cloud independent makes this a powerful bootstrapping tool which can be deployed either on cloud or on premises. Control Center centralizes the operation to manage all the related environment, but also provides an object store and private registry. Control Center's individual components are finely configured, providing network mesh securing the administrative communication between the environments and control center, but also control access for the operation teams. Role-based access control in combination with network mesh, this grants or revokes access with precise granularity to each component corresponding to the persona playing the role. Environment lifecycle management provides the ability to provision as many environments as requires, each one with its own environmental and application configuration that is totally segmented and independent from each other, no matter whether or not the deployment is on cloud or on premises. Observability. Deep observation capacity allows control center to analyze in a centralized place how each environment is behaving. The alert system enables responses in a predictable manner while providing crystal clear visibility for troubleshootings. Thank you so much.
And thank you to Oscar, who is part of our team. Our team is spread around the globe, so we have a lot of them represented here, a few in the room. But thank you very much to everyone. All right, so that talks to the operations of a platform. There's a necessary stage we need to go through. We saw from the Rwandan team similar. Now, we're going to move on to the next demo, which is going to take you through this scenario in a little more detail. You're going to see a transaction flow end to end. You're going to see us interacting with the open APIs on Airtel Zambia. You're going to see us simulating things for the National Bank of Malawi, because until they have approval, we can't go into their staging system. And it will take us, this will actually leverage all of those three functional areas. We will have to have schemes that are interconnected. We are going to use the cross-currency features, and we are going to show things that are ISO 20022. Now, the simulator that we look at today, it's also the TTK. And in the first video, that's going to be showing you messages where we pretending to be Airtel. Those are not the Mojaloop messages. And in a clip that comes afterwards, we'll give you a brief insight to the ISO messages, but we're not going to bore you with them here. The link on the slides is available, and they are on GitHub for everybody to go and look in the Mojaloop ISO project. Right, so can we play the second video?
Today's demonstration showcases an end-to-end COMESA DRPP instant payment transaction. The demonstration takes place within the COMESA staging interconnected set of environments. The transaction starts on an Airtel Zambian device. Airtel Zambia UAT Open API has been integrated through Payment Manager into a Zambian emulated national inclusive instant payment switch. This is a deployed ISO 20022 Mojaloop that is transacting in Zambian kwacha. From the Zambian switch, the transaction routes through a proxy that connects to the DRPP scheme and enables for an exchange with the provider. This bridge facilitates currency conversion and passes the transaction on to a Malawian emulated national inclusive instant payment switch transacting in Malawian kwacha. The transaction then reaches a payment manager connected to a National Bank of Malawi simulator. The demonstration today is made up of 3 steps. In the first step, The testing toolkit initiates the payment simulating the Airtel Zambia USSD service. In the second step, the payer reviews the transaction terms and confirms to proceed. In the third step, both parties receive confirmation that the transaction is complete. Elijah will now take us through that demonstration. Over to you, Elijah.
Thank you, Paul, for that introduction. So,
today's demonstration showcases an end-to-end COMESA DRPP instant payment transaction.
Sorry, we were meant
The
to
demonstration takes place within the COMESA staging interconnected set of environments. The transaction starts on an Airtel Zambian device.
Sorry, the technical
introduction. So on the left-hand side of my screen, we are presenting Zawadi's phone. That mobile device has an Airtel SIM card in it, which is Airtel Zambia. So I'll ask Nisa to just raise it and flash it at the screen. The Airtel USSD integration service is being represented by this screen we have up here. On the right-hand side, on the far right, I have a screen showing a customer balance of a customer, Chikondi Banda, who is an account holder, Malawi National Inclusive Instant Payment Switch. So we can see his account balance there, and it is in the Malawian kwacha currency. So now I'm going to be executing a transfer. Inside here, I have 3 requests that I'm going to go through sequentially to, first of all, initiate the transfer in the scheme. So I'll turn on this request, and let me just maximize this so I can see properly. So in here, we are trying to, execute a send money request to the customer who is in Malawi. I will hit send to initiate the transfer. What this does is it goes into the Mojaloop scheme, retrieves details about the customer. It calculates the fees that the customer is going to pay, and it tells us how much the beneficiary will receive. So if you look here, I'm going to magnify so that you can see. We have the name of the beneficiary that has been returned, and the amount that the customer is going to receive. This is the receive amount, which is in the received currency of the beneficiary on the other end. At this point in the USSD journey of the customer who is interacting with the USSD platform, they have seen the person to whom they want to send the funds, and they have also seen how much it is going to cost. Okay, so I'll click send, and we should see Nisa receive a USSD push to authenticate the transaction. As you can see, he has received a USSD push, and he's going to put in the PIN to authenticate the transaction. Now that PIN is a UAT PIN. So Nisa, could you kindly just show us the message that you have received from Airtel about the transaction details? So there's that new message that Nisa is showing us, and I will just magnify it here. It is a payment of 3 kwacha, and there's some identification information there. So this is actually a message from Airtel's UAT platform that tells us about the transaction that has happened. I will now move it into this last request. Now click send. And what we should see now is the funds should be credited on the customer's account. As you can see, the customer has received 154 Malawian kwacha, and the balance has increased from what it was before to 7,967 Malawian kwacha.
Thank you very much. And just to say thank you to the team that's in the room that did it. If they can stand up quickly. Johnny, Elijah, I know you're there. I can see you. Yeah, thank you very much. So this is really exciting. It's really nice to start seeing the stuff become real. And as we say, the next step is spread that out across the rest of those early adopters that we. Okay, so Okay, now I'm sure all of you can read. Actually, it works better than I thought. So just got one additional video. So that showed transactions end to end. And this link that we have over here is actually, this is a GitHub link. Like I said, and you can go and look at all the ISO messages, examples of the ISO messages from the systems, as well as all the definitions. And thank you to Dr. Richards and everybody else who's made that happen. So we're going to play one last video in a moment, which will demonstrate how within the payment system, there is an audit trail of all these transactions. And when the time comes to include the FRMS or the e-commerce platform that Dr. Jonathan talked to earlier, this is how the data will be fed across that boundary into the additional systems. So can we try the third video? A different problem with the video.
So now Kaylin is going to show us the ISO 20022 payloads that were used in the messaging to execute the transfer. Over to you, Kaylin.
So this is the rectangle tool which we are going to use to inspect the audit topic. This is the topic with the audit messages. So here we can see the list of the messages that were processed. And we can inspect the content of these messages. Let's check this put quote. Here we can see the ISO 20022 content type header. And below we can see the payload. And in the payload we can see the agreed amounts, the fee, and the version 4 package.
Okay. So some really important concepts in there. We've got the ILP, the Interledger protocol in place. So we have our cryptographic lock maintained, and that is maintained end to end. We have all the ISO messages. You can go and look at all of the different variants of it. We're not going to show you them all today. And just to say the other component on the left-hand side here is actually the reporting. So that a DFSP that's connected to the national system or a national system that is connected to the regional system is able to extract a set of reports from the platform. And those reports have been enhanced to support the FX transactions. And if you're really interested, you can look up something called Cyril in Mojaloop land. So yeah, I think that covers it for our demo components. I would just like to say again, thank you very much to the teams. I think Eugenie is in the room now, and their CEO might be here. Yes, I see a few of you now. So thank you very much to Eugenie, who are local partners in Zambia. Can you give them a round of applause, please? Because without them, this wouldn't be happening. It takes a lot of effort dealing with each different DFSP and understanding their needs and introducing them and working through this process. We are working very closely with them, Emosys as well. And as we roll out across the continent, part of the program of DFSP, of DRPP is about building local capacity. And I think that is a theme that we heard yesterday as well come out as being critical to get the type of scale we need. And this program has been from the outset. Thank you to Dr. Jonathan and CBC for making sure that is a tenet of this program. So thank you very much. I can hand it back to you, sir.
Thank you very much. And that's basically the snapshot of what we've done. So in terms of the next steps, what we're going to focus is on the governance framework. So ideally, as I pointed out earlier, I want to say we have 3 working groups, the legal and regulatory, who are looking at the operating environment in as far as the regulatory framework is concerned. So issues like, for instance, refining the rule book and other aspects, but also we have the commercial who are working on the go-to-market strategy, but also the technical and standards. So ideally, what we are doing now is to make sure that we have input from the industry. So in my earlier slide, I showed you the area, but adopters and contributors. So people are assisting us currently, especially from the industry, to see how best do we refine the business model so that we have something that is realistic and achievable. So once we have consolidated our work, this is going to be presented to the reps user group through JEDIDA, and then they'll make their recommendations to the Bureau of Central Bank Governors. After that, we're going to go for a soft launch. And in as far as the soft launch is concerned, we first starting with Malawi and Zambia and also other pilot countries who may join. And that will be conducted in a sort of like a regulatory sandbox environment whereby real money has to go in the real based on the participants, which Wallen talked about, the Airtels, the National Bank of Malawi, TNM, and others. And then our target is that Q1, because I think having discussed with also Jedida, she's envisaging to have maybe the reps user group in early January. So end of Q1, hoping that all the tests, everything will be approved by the Committee of Central Bank Governors. Probably end of Q1, we should have the platform up and running. So the last aspect is about the operational plan. So we believe that this project is going to have an impact in the COMESA region. As Jerida already pointed out, COMESA is made up of 21 countries, 655 million people, and this is quite a huge population. So we also need to have a robust operational strategy. So what we are looking at also going forward, and that's also work that we have already started, is on the operational capacity plan. So we are looking at how best do we come up with a scheme operator that will help us to move the project forward. That's number one. And then number two, we are also looking at aspects like, for instance, the FX providers. Warren already mentioned that we already have FDH Bank in Malawi, but at least we're also trying to look for more additional FX providers who will be able to cater for the whole 21 COMESA countries. And also, the other aspect is about the rollout plan. So I mentioned we are looking at 8 countries, and then we add 7 countries, and then by the end of the day, we have all the 21 COMESA countries onboarded on the platform, which will also, so to say, suffice our regional integration program in the COMESA region. And also the other one is on the onboarding plan. So already, the commercial that's a commercial sub-working group is working on the go-to-market strategy. They are looking at the fees and other aspects. And the final aspect is about the regulatory oversight, which also JDDAM is helping us just to make sure that we are compliant with what the regulators are looking for. So in a nutshell, basically, that's what we're doing in COMESA in as far as this project is concerned, and that's where we are. All I can say is to say that for those who might be willing, please join us in the working groups. There are quite good discussions going on there. So we sort of like have what we are calling the digital financial working group is an overarching working group. And then we have these sub-working groups. So thank you very much. And I hand over back to Simeon.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jonathan. We have time for maybe 2 questions. Any questions from the room? Yes, Mr. Michael Richards.
Thanks. This is not really a question, but it is a two-part comment. First of all, the progress that we've seen on this project has been absolutely amazing. When we met in Nairobi 6 months ago, all of this was theoretical. So to get from there to a position where we have Mojaloop extended to provide currency conversion, to provide inter-scheme connectivity, and to provide ISO 20022 messaging is just a phenomenal effort, I think, on the part of everybody who was involved. So many congratulations to all of you. The second point that I wanted to make is, Jonathan mentioned this, but I want to emphasize it, is how successful I think the working groups have been. It's very easy for these things to become talking shops, let's say. But actually, one thing that I've been very impressed with at the working group meetings that I've attended is the tight focus of all the stakeholders on producing real decisions. We've had discussions, sometimes quite animated discussions, but the focus groups have been continuously moving forward and continuously making decisions. And I think that's going to be a fundamental factor in the success of this project, that it's managed to bring in the stakeholders, get them productively working to help define the system and how it's going to work. So again, congratulations, particularly this time to the CBC team for the excellent work they've done in that area.
Excellent. Yes, there's a question here. Go ahead, Kelvin.
Yes, I wanted to ask about the proxy. I saw that there's a proxy that connects the different switches. I just wanted to understand a bit more what the proxy does.
Thank you. Yeah, so part of the inter-scheme design involves having this proxy component, as we called out. And if you like, it's a gateway between the two national schemes, right? Because it has to provide routing support for messages. One of the key things about Mojaloop is that we have a discovery phase of our transaction. It's got 3 phases: discovery, agreement, and transfer. And in a cross-regional scheme, we really have to make sure discovery works well. We also have to make sure that we honor the principles of not holding on to funds excessively. So we may have to make sure that expiries work across those schemes fluently. And where I should have started really is Mojaloop scheme has non-repudiation end to end. And we wanted to make sure that that happened as well, from the sending DFSP in the national scheme to the receiving DFSP. So the proxy facilitates all of that. That proxy component is hosted with the DRPP regional hub. Yeah, so these are great questions. I most probably would suggest if we have lots of technical questions, or if you'd like to go further in it, I think there is a workshop report out on each of these topics separately, but also feel free to get hold of us, and we can either have a discussion here or invite, everyone's invited to the actual Mojaloop work streams on these areas.
Awesome. Yes, James Bush. That will be the last question, comment. Go ahead, James.
Thank you. Regarding the proxy and all of the other features, this is all 100% open source, contributed back to the Mojaloop open source project, right?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Amazing. Excellent.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one last.
Yes.
Yeah, one last question from me. So I think my question is on the accounting setup. So will the multi-scheme be required to actually have an account within the DRPP system?
Sorry, can you just say that a bit louder, please?
Will the different schemes that are connected via DRPP be required to have accounts within the system?
Yes. So the settlement for DRPP will be with central bank good funds. The exact implementation of that settlement model is still being evolved alongside CCH and the REPS user group. So I'm going to defer the exact answer to how that mechanism is going to pan out right now.
Okay. Allow me to, because we're completely out of time, but it is break time. So I will encourage you all to grab any of these panelists and others in the room and have your technical questions asked and go deep dives. But as Warren also mentioned, starting this afternoon and all into tomorrow, we'll go into a little bit of the technical details. I'm starting to see some of those conversations start to prop up. So that would be also another good opportunity to go in depth into some of these issues. Also, you can join the work streams. I will be letting you know how to do that tomorrow. So a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much. As they get their photo taken, please, let's take a 15-minute break now and be back in the room at 10:50. We have 2 more countries to go through. We want to hear from Kenya Accelerator participants. You'll get to hear what KPMG is up to. And then we will also hear from Higala, that's based in the Philippines. Francis is here and we'll have a fireside chat with Julie. So there's lots of practical real-world lessons that you can learn from people in the trenches doing this work every day. So get up, get some coffee. You're welcome to bring your coffee back in the room with you, and we will get started at exactly 10:50 a.m. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay. Can our wider team just come up so we can get a group photo before you disappear to your tea break?
Yeah.
Everyone else can go, but just for the photo.